This is Omar.
Hi, I'm Oakley, Ogden.
And we're excited to join you again this week, really focusing on the practice of gratitude and noticing. Last week's session, which was around acknowledge, accept, welcome. We had some beautiful feedback from the gthx community. One social worker reached out and asked if she could share the practice with her community, and that's what this is all about. This is about putting the practices to work. And it's not just sort of great concepts and great ideas, but how does this live in our lives? And so I thank you for being a part of the gthx community. If you've downloaded the app, thank you. If you haven't, it's on both the Apple and Android stores. And we also ask, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is, again, part of what we're trying to do is deepen these practices and grow the gthx community. Before we jump into this week's practice around return and reclaim, I just wanted to share with Oakley that I started to use her acknowledge, accept, and welcome practice in my own meditation. And it was this one day where I had this pain in my shoulder. And it was just, I was trying to sit there and be calm, but like the pain was like, nope, I'm not going away today. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to use Oakley's practice. And I just sort of acknowledged the pain. I accepted it. I put my sort of hands out like you showed us. And then I just let it be welcomed into my heart. And I just kept doing this over and over again. And it made me think of, and I think there's a Buddhist practice around being a host. Like you're a host in your home. And when you're a host in your home, when a guest comes over, you acknowledge them, you accept them, and you welcome them into your home. And so that's sort of the feeling that I started to develop as I was doing your practice, is just, I'm being a host. And whether, the guest is something that I invited or didn't invite, they're now in my home. And so as a good host, I was going to welcome them.
That's so powerful, Omar. I just want to add to that for today's practice, because we're moving into some really powerful work today. And the premise of all these tools that I've taught in the past, that I'll teach in the future, and that we're doing today together is always that energy of compassion. And what we'll do today, I'll give an example of how we return things, and people get frustrated, like, and I return this to you, it doesn't belong to me. And they really angry. But really, it's in the compassion and the energy of gratitude that completes the separation of the energy. So I'll get more into that later, but I just wanted to take a moment, because that host energy is something so beautiful that we will come back to.
Well, that's like the other part of it that came up for me was just, well, okay, I'm this host to these feelings or emotions or physical sensations that are coming in, but who is this host? And it became this kind of existential question of like, who am I in this space? And who is doing this hosting? And how do I want that host to be present, and what else I can be doing? And I think that was really when you and I started talking about this Unlearning series. It was really about how can we go into what is unfamiliar, maybe what is uncomfortable, because we all go to what our comfort zones, and the comfort zones are really the places that we know. And sometimes those comfort zones are actually not that comfortable. We actually endure sort of some pain because we're actually familiar with it. And so what does it mean to like let go of that? And with a little bit of joy and lightness, right? Like this is gthx. We always have to remember there's a sense of humor that is tied to this practice, and that we can't take it too seriously, because this is our life. And so, this is sort of our moment to find joy. And I love right now, actually, even in the context of what's happening in the world, I've seen recently this idea that joy is resistance. That we're willing to kind of just be joyful in the face of pain. There is a beauty and power in that as well. And so Is there anything else, just as we're going into this unlearning series, to help people remember sort of how to kind of go into what is maybe sometimes uncomfortable or unfamiliar?
It's kind of what Eckhart Tolle talks about is what we're identifying with,
Mhm.
right? Who's the eye that's listen or that's witnessing, you know? And so I love that you were kind of um, becoming aware of that in that moment. Like, who's this host? Who's the one that's welcoming this energy into the heart, you know? And there's that moment when we just detach a tiny bit, just that crack from identifying with the feeling that takes us on this crazy ride. And just for that moment, we say, hey, no, actually, there's something else that's in charge, and I'm going to direct what I choose to do. I'm going to direct these feelings. I'm not going to let the feelings direct me.
That's, I think, ultimately is one of the key elements to all of this, is that we actually have more agency and choice. And that's, to me, is really the practice of gratitude, is continuing to remind ourselves that we can choose what are we noticing.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you going to help us notice today, Oakley?
Woo. Well, today is really seriously about choice. Let me adjust this. So this is a practice that I engage absolutely every single client in the last 18 years has probably touched this tool at some point. I would say 80% of my clientele have done this, used this tool very, very deeply for extended periods of time, extended sessions. And the reason it is one of my favorite tools, I learned it from a master teacher, this woman, Saima, who's a therapist from Europe and became a spiritual teacher. And it has its roots in Gestalt therapy and psychodrama. And it's got a beautiful history that just makes it so dynamic and fun. And this is Return Reclaim. And Return Reclaim is all about choice. It is all about deciding who we want to be and what really belongs to us and what doesn't. Because you see, when we are in utero, we are just a conglomeration of cells and molecules and atoms, and we form, and so many people have different beliefs. Let's just say spirit comes in, animates us, kind of from the Greek tradition, right? And then we're born, and we're these little beautiful kind of pure slates. Nothing has been written quite yet, but we have strands of DNA, we have strands of information that will begin to express itself as we grow and mature. And now that's kind of the biological factor that's happening. So I would say that's kind of the nature, right? But then we're over here on the nurture side. And the nurture is the fact that we have an environment around us with primary caregivers, whether it's mom and dad or moms or dads or a single parent, doesn't matter, or adopted parents, or there's so many configurations now of a primary caregiver. But the people that were there raising us are the ones that we started to learn behaviors from that weren't necessarily an expression of our true self. Right? So we have this inherent self that is yearning to be expressed, that's yearning for something more. And we could talk about that on a totally different conversation, right? We could all unpack that together and the way that we felt that. So I'm just being kind of surface level with the way that I touch into that. But here we have this self, we'll say it's kind of the pure self. Then we have these layers of behaviors, ways of being, right? So I'm growing up and I'm watching my mom and my dad in my case, and my mom is interacting with people in a particular way. And I'm looking up at her saying, oh, is that how we do it? And I'm unconsciously learning, right? How to be in a relationship. I'm unconsciously learning how to be in the world, right? And as I mature, as I grow myself, let's be totally honest here, and I will start that conversation by being honest with all of you. There were many, many things that I did that didn't really feel good to me and didn't get me where I really wanted to be. It didn't help me with the relationship. Some patterns I had didn't help me find the relationship I knew I really wanted.
That
It didn't.
word pattern, right?
That's it.
That's, what are these patterns that we're continuing to sort of repeat over and over? And are we conscious of the pattern or unconscious of the pattern?
Yeah.
Like, I was just recently rereading Brene Brown's book, The Gifts of Imperfection. And her opening line is, once you've seen a pattern, you can't unsee it. And I loved it personally because we're doing the Unlearning series. And so the fact that Brene Brown was talking about, we can't unsee these patterns. And I think what's also interesting as you're talking about it is these patterns are cycles. They started before us. And the question is, what are we going to pass down? And that's even just passed down from day to day, from yesterday to today to tomorrow.
That's so true. That's exactly it. This work is really lineage work at its root. And then once we learn that lineage work, we can do it in relationships that are more surface, less lineage oriented. I use this tool I'm teaching today with you guys all the time. I just used it yesterday in my meditation. I absolutely love it. And so what it does is it has us take charge of our own energy and our own emotional expression. So the first thing that we have to do is kind of to look inside and be honest enough to say, hey, I do this thing that really doesn't work for me. And so as an example, I had a habit that was so unconscious of blaming other people, like all the way from traffic to like my brother and sister. Something didn't go right. And I was like, oh, well, had you guys done this, it would have worked out. And it was so critical. And I honestly didn't even see it because I didn't identify as a critical person or a blame person. So when I really recognized that I was doing this, it burned a little. I'll be honest. It really did. It torched me.
We all play the blame game.
Go ahead.
We all play the blame game.
The blame game.
Guilty.
Guilty. That's it, right? It's so easy. So in my circumstance, I was like, okay, this is so prevalent. It's so unconscious. Where did I learn it? Because I didn't just pick it up. Like, I didn't just decide that's a really good way to be in the world. That's really going to get me where I want to be. Right? Like, I didn't do that. So where did this thing come from? And I turned and I kind of, looked at my parents and I was like, oh, my mom does that a lot. And she does it sweetly. So it's also, you can't totally tell all the time. And so it's kind of subversive too, right? And I was like, oh my goodness. So in this tool, what we're doing is we're identifying this energy package called, in my case, the energy of blame. And I am returning that energy package to its source, for in this circumstance is my mom, okay? Now, a lot of people freak out because they're like, I'm not going to give this terrible energy back to someone I love. And I totally get that because that's how it occurs right now. But I want you to think of it more like you're returning water to an ocean, right? It's whoever we return the energy to, it's their responsibility to return it or dissolve it or so forth. And next week, I am going to teach how to dissolve some of this energy and reactivate things. But this tool is very specific for cleaning out our, I would say, energy bodies, right? And I'll come up with several other examples, so So Omar, talk to me about blame a little here.
Interesting. So it's not just specific to blame. It could be any learned behavior, right? And I think, again, in the context of this series, these are learned behaviors, which means that we can unlearn them. And so just because we picked it up along the way doesn't mean we can't put it down. And so for me, I think it's that acceptance, that acknowledgement, and also that forgiveness, right? It's even the word forgive. It's like give back, to give up, to release and let go. But you can only release and let go of something when you realize that you're holding on to it. And so that first sort of step of sort of recognizing these behaviors, and they're the small ones. I agree with you. Last week I used the example of my mother-in-law deciding whether or not she's going to join us for dinner, depending on what we've cooked. And I know that, I'm aware my mom is like, you either are going to eat with us or not going to eat with us, not because of what I made or didn't make. And so I know, like, I'm either going to choose to eat or not eat. And so I had taken that learned behavior and now was applying it to my mother-in-law. And so I was like, okay, this is where it came from. Now, is this something that I want to repeat and do over? And it's not that it's right or wrong, right? I think part of it is just sort of being sort of conscientious of the choices that we're trying to make in our day-to-day lives.
And being responsible, right? Responsible for growing ourselves in a conscious way. And that's why these exercises are done with awareness and with love, and coming back to the point that Omar made in the beginning here is being gracious, a gracious host to these energies. And so it's graciously saying, thank you for being here, and you're going back to your home now, right? Because I've got some other energies that I actually wish to take precedence. So this can be blaming, shaming, anger, frustration, anxiety, depression. A lot of us learn these aspects of mental health aspects from parents. Not saying that we learn it all. I mean, I have so many beautiful clients who are doing incredibly with mental health, and it is lineage. One of my kiddos that I work with struggles with bipolar, and bipolar's in the lineage. However, there are ways that he would express his anger and his rage that didn't feel particular to him. And then when he looked at the patterns of his dad, he saw, holy moly, my father would rage when I was little. And so that's how he learned to express frustration. Does that make sense?
And
yeah.
Back to also, just as if you can lean into that idea of returning this cup of water back into the ocean. Because I think that sort of, there's a beauty of that this all exists. This is why the graciousness is so important, because it's not about right or wrong. All of this exists. It's just, what are we choosing to kind of hold on to, and what can we sort of pour back? And, and part of this idea is that however you get into the ocean, whether you fall in or you do it intentionally, you're going to get wet. And I love that sort of equality to that experience. And because some days you can meditate all day, you can pray all day, and sometimes you just trip and fall, and then you're in the ocean. And so I think being open to this, like not judging, like, am I doing a really good job of letting this go? Because then all of a sudden that in and of itself can create, and and you talked about the dissolution of something. And I just think about the ocean. The water is the great dissolver. Because then all of a sudden it's not about this sort of equal action reaction. It's about how do we actually let something dissolve unto itself and find resolution.
That's beautiful. Oh, I had just a gate open up there that I wanted to run down suddenly in the philosophical space. I'm going to bring us back though. I won't go down there right now. It does come back to gratitude, to opening up to our potentiality. And this is one way to be really conscious and responsible, as I said before, for how we create ourselves. And this is part of diving into this ocean of consciousness, right? So let's start together and let's practice this for a moment. I'm going to guide everyone through this. And I think it'll be best if I probably give an example first, right? So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to close my eyes, and I'll take you all through this together after this moment. Take a couple breaths. And I'm going to go into that energy, and instead of blame, because I have worked with that so much, and it actually feels very like intangible to me. It feels cleaned up. There's a way that expresses itself in judgment, right? Like, I know better, like that one. And so I'm at my brother's house right now. We're really close. I drove here to see him and the new baby because I haven't seen them all from quarantine since like Thanksgiving or whatnot. And in true sibling form, we support each other, and we are each other's greatest cheerleaders. And also sometimes we think that we know better than the other sibling about their life. So we have some really good discussions about how we probably know what they should do for themselves. And I'll use that as an example today. And that kind of quality of knowing better, God bless her, also comes from my mom, who has, by the way, beautiful qualities and is a powerhouse, and I love her. And that has nothing, this exercise has nothing to do with how much I respect and love my mom, right? This is just where I learned it. And so there is that element of actually detachment and love in this exercise, because it's not really about making anyone wrong, right? Not even myself. I just recognized I got into a pattern of like helping my brother, right? Over helping. And so judging, right? So I was judging. I was like, oh, he's not listening. He should do this. So I noticed the pattern of judgment, and I recognized where I learned that pattern, and I learned it from my mom. So I summon that awareness. How does judgment feel in my body? My heart rate increases. Hands get a little sweaty. Feet get a little cold. It's kind of like a energy in my neck, kind of a tension. So I take a breath, and I take this energy of judgment, and I return this energy of judgment to you, Mom. It's not mine, it's yours. And I reclaim my energy of compassion and understanding. And then I offer my gratitude. You know, so it's very simple, and you don't want your head to get too wrapped up in what this means or what it means about what giving back to the other person. You're simply cleaning up energy and activating the new qualities of energy. So you return energy. I pictured my mom standing in front of me. And when I gave that energy, I'll tell you, it was like giving a dropper full of energy back into an ocean. It was like just so tiny. My mom's not like burdened with judgment now, right? She's not going to call me tonight and be like, oh God, judgment is just weighing on me. Like, that's not how this works. It's very energetic. So it's almost like I took a piece of it, and I'm just putting a piece of the pie back in the pie. Okay. Omar, any questions that you have for the group, or anything I should clarify?
No, I think this is, again, figuring out what those learned behaviors are. And it, for me, at least, it took me a moment to be like, okay, is this my issue, or is this an issue that somehow I inherited?
Mm-hmm.
Sort of draw that connection in a way that I've never really had before. I think part of it too is we carry our own burdens oftentimes by ourselves. And and this sort of practice is helping me like, oh, where did I get this from? Or did I get this from somewhere? And to then all of a sudden, it helps me also sort of realize, like, where did they get it from? And then ultimately, particularly as a father, well, what behaviors do I want my daughters to have? And I think, again, when Brene Brown talked about once you see a pattern, you can't unsee it. And part of it is if it happens over and over again, it's not a coincidence anymore. At some point you have to say, okay, this isn't a coincidence. This is not an accidental, that I kind of always come back. This is my default behavior.
Right.
And then what is, I think you're inviting us to sort of have that sense of agency and choice into, okay, I can learn to accept this and return this. I love that.
It's so well said. Thank you. That's great. And again, we do create our own patterns, and next week we're going to work on those. So this is a very lineage specific tool right now. So if you can't think of something, that has a ton of charge, just think of something that's obvious that one of your parents does, and your primary caregiver, whoever it is, if they've passed, if they've left the planet, died, you can still work with them. So I just want to say that. Okay, so let's all close our eyes together for a moment. And we're basically becoming energy sorters here. We're just going to clean things up. This belongs here, that belongs there, right? So take a deep breath in. And exhale. And another inhale. And exhale. And one more. Inhale. And exhale. And become aware of the energy that you're working with today, whatever it is. And just notice how it feels in your body when you summon it up. Whether it's anger, agitation, frustration, sadness, guilt, victimhood. It's good to give victim back. That's a big learned one. So whatever it is, remember, once you have this tool, you can use it forever and ever and ever. So just pick one quality that you wish to return. And become aware of it in your body. Really allow yourself to feel it so the nervous system is awake to it. And I'm going to invite you to place the primary caregiver in front of you. Just invite them to stand in front of you about 6 to 10 feet. And if that's uncomfortable for anyone, just push them further back past 10 feet. But 6 to 10 is average. And if you can say this out loud, I invite you to. Otherwise, you may say it to yourself, just so we can practice aloud together. You say the person's name, mom, dad, auntie, uncle, whoever it is, and then say, this, say the energy, this anger, this rage, this, etc., belongs to you. I learned this from you, and this is yours. This is not mine. And today, I return this energy to you. So say their name. This energy that I carry and express belongs to you, not to me. I learned this from you. And today I return this energy to you. And you may use your hands as if you're giving a package back across the room to this being. Take a deep breath in. And a deep breath out. Another deep breath in. And out. And now, like the loving souls that we are, when we take something, we give something. So you gave something back, and now it's time to reclaim the energy that you gave back in exchange to that thing. So if you gave over something to your primary caregiver, what is it that you gave away back in the day? Is it your power? Is it your voice? Is it your light? Is it your joy, your playfulness, your compassion, your ability to listen deeply, to be empathetic? All of these love-based things, we trade them out. Okay? So we give back to the primary caregiver, and then you say the name, mom, dad, aunt, uncle, whoever it is. I reclaim my sense of peace. And so for me, I gave back judgment. I take back my compassion, my understanding. So if you can, out loud, name the person. Today, I reclaim my joy. This is my joy, and it belongs to me. And you may replace joy with whatever you wish. Today, I reclaim. What is yours? My light. Whatever it is. This is mine, not yours. This belongs to me. And now we're going to do a special closing with these people today. So I'm going to ask you to repeat after me. Say the person's name or whatever you call them. And repeat after me. I am me. And you are you. And we are different. And today I free you from me. And I free me from you. Thank you for playing this role in my life. And now just bless them and send them on their way back to their life stream. Okay. Take a deep breath in, roll the shoulders. Lots of energy can move in that one. So just take a deep breath, let the body readjust. Some of you may sense relaxation. Others may have been triggered by deeper things. We can talk about that. But really, there's an expansion that can come after this exercise. So just relax into it. Let the nervous system expand. Let your electromagnetic field pulsate. Let it expand. Take up some space. Beautiful. Okay. All right.
That was beautiful, Oakley.
Thank you.
Um, a very real sort of practice and experience. And just so that everybody knows, like, my mom is actually on this Zoom cast right now. And so as we're doing these practices, this isn't theory, this is real. And so, I think for me, one of the emotions that came up was actually the lack of emotions.
It's a great one.
Part of it was, and it wasn't until we actually, you pushed us to the reclaim that I actually put the pieces together. Was I had an uncle as a kid who would tell me, Omar, think before you talk, think before you talk. And literally not until this moment did I really own the fact that what it really did was shut down my feelings. And it was in this process then of saying like, oh, okay, I was taught not to feel. I was taught to just ignore it. And in some ways, like I overcompensate. I'm an optimist. And so it really wasn't like all feelings. It was just like, I'm going to shut down negative feelings. And so on the one hand, it's made me great because I'm an optimist. But on the other hand, it's not made me so great because I don't own all of the feelings sometimes. And so in this process of acknowledging, okay, negative feelings actually have a role too. They can be of service too if I can acknowledge them. And then in doing so, then I'm reclaiming all of my feelings. I can feel the good, I can feel the bad, I can feel the ugly. And that's okay.
Mm.
That's part of being human.
Mm-hmm.
And then in return, then I'm not always having to like think about everything or overly be optimistic about what is possible, and can just acknowledge what is. And I think that's, again, at the practice of gratitude is noticing, and we can just notice what is, not what we think it ought to be or should be or like it to be. Just what is it?
Mm-hmm.
And I could feel like my shoulder actually just dropped down a little bit. I was like, oh, thank you.
That is so perfect, because what you're talking about, I'm hearing too, is that, that numbing quality that we can do. That's something to give back. I've worked with so many people who they're like, sorry, feeling these feelings isn't safe. And so they learned that also. So they gave back that kind of shield or that denial or that numbing or that feeling of just being like disconnected. That's something to give back too. We learn so much, and it's usually the things that our parents learned from their parents that then got unconsciously passed down, which just has me have compassion at the end of the day. That's all. And this work can go deep. We can give back some pretty big stuff also. So if something arose for you, feel free to reach out.
Share it in the chat. I mean, I think part of it,
Yeah.
I think if there is something that you are able to either return or reclaim in this moment, we'd love to just hear from you as to, what you're doing. And I think that's, again, part of this is that you're not alone. We're all going through these things together. That's the sort of beauty of community, is we can sort of bear witness without judgment, and just sort of realize, yeah, this is just part of the journey and it's all good.
Perfect. Yeah, please share any comments. If you felt a sense of expansion and ease, just type it into the comments. Let us know. And in the meantime, I'll let you know that a great time to use this in our day-to-day life is when we have an interaction that we walk away from and later can't shake. We all know those ones. Usually in those moments of interacting, if we can't shake it later, it's because something happened in the moment where there was an energy exchange, right? Either we felt blamed and victimized, or there was someone that got angry and then we got angry back. There's a kind of an action and a reaction happened, right? And over time, a couple hours pass and usually kind of dissolves and we talk about it, but there's no charge. If you find yourself caught in a space where there's charge, right, where you're still activated, the next day you're still mad that someone yelled at you while you were, you made a left turn, something like that, and they were stepping into the crosswalk when it wasn't their turn to walk, something like that, right? And they scream some obscenity and you're still like feeling that, that's a moment to actually just in our day-to-day to use this tool. Close your eyes, see the person. I give you back your anger, right? Like, whoa, that really surprised me and I didn't like it. I give you back your anger and I take back the peace that I was feeling right before that interaction. Or whatever. So it's a way, this is a tool to clean up energy exchange. Oh, here we go. Wonderful. Amanda. I had my eye on you, Amanda. All right. I was going to call on you. Returned anger and unforgiving heart. Reclaimed youthfulness, vibrant light. Oh, you're so fantastic. How do you feel right now, love?
I feel really at peace. I feel aligned even being here and being able to participate in this practice because I was able to earlier in the summer just identify personalities that were not my own. And I recognized that they were personalities of people in my primary family that I experienced, you know, all types of abuse from. And I'm just like, I don't want this on me anymore because I know I'm something different. I know I have a different spirit to me. And this practice actually taught me how to give their energy back to them and really be able to like be myself. So I'm just incredibly grateful right now to have like been here today and learned so much. It feels really good. I'm so hopeful for the future right now. It's incredible.
Oh my God. I am so moved by this. I can see your light right now. You are glowing. This is awesome. I'm so happy you're here.
The cloak of youthfulness, vibrant spirit, light, and joy. You have a physical cloak around you. I love it.
So great. So Amanda, you can continue to do this with the family system and with individuals as you become aware. Sometimes it's even nice to kind of journal it all out or not. You don't need to get too in the headspace, but if you really just feel it coming, journal it. Sit where you are. You can even put a pillow in front of you and just give it all back. Give it all back. I return this to you. I return your abuse. I return your words to you, right? And I take back my power. I take back my voice. I take back my light and my individuality. I take back my expression, right? Like this. Reclaim it. Good? Okay. Beautiful. We're here for you, honey. Good job.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Deborah, return, claim love and release love to each family member, heir, moms, sons, daughters, dads. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. So you kind of gave your love as a response too, it seems.
Yes.
Tell us more.
Well, I've been dealing with this feeling of envy. My family's all gone on a vacation trip together. They invited their friends, and I think it's triggering my past stuff about not being worthy enough to have, your dad love you, or and so I'm giving them back the love for a daughter and a son, and just releasing all that to them.
Mm-hmm.
And it just feels really really healing.
Good for you. You're choosing expansion over contraction.
Yes.
Excellent.
Goodbye,
excellent
envy. I love it. Goodbye, envy.
Goodbye, envy.
Goodbye, envy.
Right on, Deborah.
I don't need you.
That's right. You don't. So here's one question for you to take it deeper, and then we have to wrap. So if you think of your parents, first thought, best thought, okay? Which one do you think felt unworthy underneath it all?
Unworthy of love.
Which one carried unworthiness? Mom or dad?
Dad.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is something to give back as a core learning, to give back to dad. So let's do it together right now. I want you to just close your eyes, take a breath, see your father in front of you, and get how so much of his action was making up for the feeling of unworthiness inside. Right? So he didn't know how to show you how to be worthy. He didn't have capacity to express his love because he just didn't know how. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in this moment, Dad, Repeat after me. In this moment, Dad.
In this moment, Dad,
I return to you your unworthiness.
I return to you your unworthiness.
I carried this unknowingly.
I carried this unknowingly,
But I learned it from you, and I
but I
return
learned
it to you.
and I return it to you.
Take a deep breath in. And now, what do you wish to reclaim?
I reclaim the joy of the moments that we did have together, the love that was there.
So you're noticing that. That's different. This is a distinction to make. You're noticing now the love that was there because it's not clouded with the other thing. Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But in the new space that you just created from
Mm-hmm.
giving back the energy of unworthiness, what do you wish to put in that space in your own energy field separate from your father?
More joy, more joy.
Yes.
Cultivate the joy and
Yes.
love.
Great. So, Dad, I reclaim my joy from you.
Mm-hmm.
I reclaim my joy. So take that back.
I reclaim my joy from you.
Beautiful. Yay. I felt that. Okay. Take a deep breath in. Exhale. And what do you notice right now? Do you feel more relaxed, more expanded, contracted? What are you noticing on the sensation level?
That I am lovable.
Ah!
Yes.
You are amazing. Yes.
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 And I'm worthy of love.
Yes. This is so true.
Yes.
Yes, Deborah, you are worthy of love. Yes. And so lovable. I mean, how much every single one of us right now are in love with you for doing
Thank
this
you.
work. Yes.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Beautiful part.
Thank you.
When we
Thank
can
you.
Appreciate it.
ourselves. That is just so beautiful.
Thank you.
I want to just acknowledge some of the folks, Stacy and others who we didn't get to today. But we have one more in this 3-part series of Unlearning next week. Next week is going to be about end and ignite. And one of the other things I wanted to do as we wrap up was acknowledge the folks that post in our public journal in the app. And we feature different posts. And today, the one I wanted to talk about, and I didn't even plan this, and it's literally somebody took a picture of a Lay's barbecue bag of chips, right? And in the corner of this Lay's barbecue flavored chips, it says, "Be kind today and ... ask someone how they're feeling." And so for me to be able today to reclaim my feelings, for us to be able to together as a community in gthx acknowledge and return and reclaim the feelings that serve us best is beautiful. So thank you, everybody. If again, please download the app, share in the public journal, so this conversation just isn't once a week, but something that we can have on an ongoing basis. And if you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, please share in the comments. I mean, this is how we keep the conversation going and go deeper as a community. Thank you, Oakley, for continuing to inspire these practices that are just real time and they're quick. They're 90 seconds. They can happen in these moments. It's beautiful. Thank you for the gthx community for participating and co-creating this space with us. And I also want to give a shout out to Brian Vasquez, our audio engineer, who really helps to keep all of this going. Thank you so much. One quick question in the app. What is the app? gthx, GTHX. It's our gratitude app. We launched in November, the week before Thanksgiving. You know, it's a gratitude app. And it's really, you know, a place that allows us these small practices to just tap into our thankfulness and practice our noticing, beginning with what is good. And gratitude makes visible what we value and reminds us of all the things that we take for granted and make invisible. And that's what I love about Oakley's practice, is that she's helping us make visible some of the lineage that we're carrying, you know, and some of the baggage that we could just put down. Be like, oh, don't need to carry this bag anymore. Thank you. It's not serving me on where I'm trying to go. I want a, you know, swimsuit, you know, and, you know, nice sun. I don't need all this extra stuff. So thank you.
I love it. Thank you so much, Omar, for having me again. This is so fun. And as you said, next week is End and Ignite. And this is about the patterning that we create in our own world, separate from our family, separate from relationship. And so I'll teach you how to end those, dissolve them, send them back, and ignite the new pattern. It's all about conscious creation through gratitude.
Awesome. Well, I love it. Conscious creation, co-created. I just put my email in the chat, omar@gthx.co. We'd love to hear from you. And we'd love to hear what other topics or issues you'd love to unpack. And we're also now putting together a slate of guests that we want to invite on our Zoomcast. And so if there's any topics or themes that are resonant for you, we want to hear so that we can really be present with you in this journey. Have a great week. Cheers.